Hello, this is Rico Cavella, and this is your Ageless Living. No, I'm sorry. This is your Fearless Aging podcast. And the title of today's episode is The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. This is such a timely and important topic. So this is going to be really good. We're going to really learn a lot about how you can make it a lot easier on yourself if you have to take care of your parents. So we have a great guest today. Her name is Teresa Moore. She's an author, a coach, and a speaker who recently published The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. It's based on her 35-year career as a physical therapist and experience as a caregiver for her parents. She believes that caregivers around the world face the challenge of keeping their parents healthy and aging in place while continuing to manage their personal life and commitments. She developed a method of building the body, brain, and spirit to achieve the highest level of function in mobility and personal life. Now she's sharing her information with people to help them start their parents on a proactive aging process without giving up their vibrant personal life. Her 4-step method, Xperi Age, helps people of all ages find their strength and life vision, set goals, target concrete activities to achieve the goals while taking part in group interactions and enjoying life. This is done through exceptional experiences created by the aging person and their family member. And Teresa and her husband live in Iowa and have 3 grown children, and she loves gardening, cooking, and painting. So Teresa Moore, thank you very much for being here. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Rico, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is, again, I think this is really an important topic, and so thank you for coming and share that knowledge and wisdom with us. So, I looked through your book, and I really like your book. It's really very comprehensive, and it's well organized, and it's very timely. So we'll basically, I guess, kind of go through your book and go through all the things that you have to offer there. But first, I always like to ask my guest, just tell us a little bit about your journey and how and what brought you to where you are now and to write your book.
Okay, sure. Well, I have been a physical therapist, probably against all odds. I became a physical therapist. I'm very introverted and shy, and but I got there. I got through school, and I became a therapist, and I started working, and I noticed that I became bored very frequently. There was something lacking in the creative aspect of my life that I couldn't achieve with physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But I continued to move on, and I would get different jobs, and I moved around quite a bit. And suddenly, I was about 20 years into my career, and I got a job at a rehabilitation facility. And my supervisor told me that we were going to start group therapy. And I really didn't have any idea what this group therapy was about. And she said it was multidisciplinary: physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. And so I just thought, great, I'm going to learn something new. So that next morning, we started group therapy, and we gathered all the residents and patients into the room, and they had put up, like, the speech therapist was doing a language activity while we were doing some physical activities. And the group I saw there of the patients, they seemed to be, rather, I would say they weren't very engaged at the time, and I was just kind of wondering how this was going to all work out. So they started doing some exercises with the patients, and I stepped into the hall to help a couple additional patients into the room. And when I got into the room, I was like just amazed. I had an aha moment. They had written, that this was a word game, and there was probably 50 words on the board, and the patients were just, engaged and interacting, and they were active, and I could just tell that their brains had just, woken up, and I just saw some amazing things happen. So that was my aha moment, and I decided that group therapy was definitely for me. That was my creative outlet. I could help build these group experiences to stimulate the body, brain, and spirit, and see patients just achieve some fantastic outcomes. So that's what I did. I put this group therapy into a 4-step method. And most of our patients were there for about 4 weeks, so it worked out well. But what I did, I was kind of doing it for myself too, because it really, served that need I had to be creative. So I came up with group therapies like one was Picasso's painting party, where we had the patients stand up and paint, and we had them have a wide base of support with their feet, and then we showed them the difference of their balance between the wide base and then the narrow base of support. So we were teaching the patients how to be safe, when they went home. We were stimulating the body and working on some neural networks that helped them with their balance. And at the same time, they were having so much fun. They were painting these pictures together, and one was kind of building on the other for these pictures. So it just served a lot of purpose. And that group interaction, which I'll talk a little bit about later, but it is terrific for the brain. And the brain and the body really love that type of stimulation. So a few years after this, insurance companies didn't pay for group therapy as well. And so it was kind of put on hold. And I just kept my method. And about 14 years later, while I was taking care of my own mother, I decided to write a book about it because I wanted to share it with others. And so many people were coming up to me and my sisters and asking us, what do I do with my aging parents? So I thought, well, this would be great information for people to have because it is a comprehensive program, and it's also a proactive aging process. So that's what I did. I wrote it up, and then I wrote a book about it. And I give people all different kinds of tools to use with their parents, that healthy lifestyle strategies. And I can talk a little bit about those now, about what I have in the book. What I teach people to do is to work with their parents early, because early intervention is critical for the body and the brain, so that some of the chronic diseases and illnesses, and even the brain deficits, don't have a chance. You can kind of ward off some of the chronic illness if you get started early.
Let me just ask you, okay, now are you talking about working with parents that are still living in their own home, not in some kind of assisted living place, right?
Yes, mainly in their own home.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have an effect too, even if they're in assisted living, but I really try to tell people that the sooner they start this process with their parents, the better.
Well, isn't the idea, at least that's my idea, that you want to start these things so they don't have to end up in needing caregiving and being in assisted living, right? That's not,
Yeah.
that's maybe normal, but that's not natural. We shouldn't have to end up that way, but if you start the processes that I'm sure that you're going to talk about, and also like what I teach, hopefully, you won't need to end up in an assisted living or some kind of a home like that, right?
Right.
Okay.
That is the
Okay.
goal, to try to have them age in place,
Right.
or age in the right place. And that might be home, or that might be somewhere else, depending on their needs. But to age at home, in their surroundings that they know, and hopefully with maybe even some neighbors and some groups that they share experiences with, to keep them in that place is better for their health. So that is the goal. That is, I think, most people's goal, is to age at home as long as they can. Yeah, so getting started early is the thing to do. And so I teach healthy lifestyle strategies that people can incorporate into their lives every day. And these are things that, if you open up a health magazine, you're going to find all these things. And they aren't hard to do, and they don't cost a lot of money. But it just takes a little bit of time to get this organized. So I teach good nutrition, and I actually feel like the Mediterranean diet is one of the easiest diets to start, and it's kind of user friendly, and people think of it as a lifestyle instead of a diet.
Yeah.
And they can eat together, exercise, that type of thing with the Mediterranean diet. I teach, how much hydration a person should have to keep their bodies and brains functioning. And then I teach about, good sleep and how much sleep you need to, for your brain and body to function well. I also teach exercises for the body, and I teach, stretching, aerobic, and muscle strengthening. I also teach therapeutic activities because that's a wonderful way to exercise your body, and it's also fun. It's doing things that are fun and in groups, and it's very motivating and stimulating to your brain. And I also teach brain exercises, and I know you can make up your own brain exercises, but there's also brain exercises on the internet that you can get. And I've done them in the past, and they are very good, and they're researched, and they give you statistics on how you're doing, and they definitely have some research to back them up. Okay. But I make my own brain exercises. I believe that everybody should challenge themselves every day. Put the right amount of challenge in your life. So if there's a new coffee shop or a restaurant across town, and instead of getting out your phone and, Googling it and finding the directions, put that work into your brain and make your brain figure it out. Or, test your memory every day. I tell people, like when you go to the grocery store, write your grocery list. When you get there, put the list away, make yourself remember everything. So you're constantly figuring out these little challenges for your brain and body that will help you stay fit and functioning well into your aging years.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I recently wrote a whole 50-page report called The Ageless Brain. And most of the research that I found, actually, the number one thing to really support your brain and hopefully, to avoid dementia and Alzheimer's is physical, in addition to what you said, brain exercise, but it's physical exercise. I think a lot of people don't realize that the brain is just another organ in our body. So what's good for the physical body, all the things that like you just mentioned, good nutrition, make sure you get enough sleep, and regular physical exercise also is the very best thing for your brain, and sleep and all those things. So in addition to those brain type activities, but just to get on a program like you've been talking about, a physical exercise is the best thing to support your brain as well.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And yeah, I have a little bit about that in my book also. But yes, you are so correct. What's good for the body is good for the brain. And yeah, all this research coming out lately is telling us, which is wonderful. It's wonderful news. So I teach all that. And then I also help caregivers to improve their communication. And I teach a theory called the multiple intelligence theory. And basically what that says is that we all have 9 intelligences that we possess, and we possess them at different degrees. And some of our intelligences are very strong, and some of them are weaker. So I teach people how to find those intelligences in themselves and their parents, so that they can nurture their strengths and their parents' strengths, and also build up the weaknesses. Because as we age, we need to have, all of the intelligences to a certain degree. And, for example, one intelligence that the multiple intelligence theory, now his name is escaping me, but Howard Gardner. He put these together, and one is kinesthetic awareness. And your kinesthetic receptors are in your muscles and your joints, and they tell you where your body is in space. So that is a very important intelligence to have as you age, because you're going to be challenged with, walking on uneven surfaces, and maybe, being tipped off balance. And you need to react. Your body needs to know where it is in space so it can react and help yourself, avoid a fall and things like that. So that's why I talk about the intelligences, and to build them up to the strongest level you can. And in addition to that, I teach caregivers the experiential learning theory so that they can help their parents learn some of these techniques, such as, maybe walking with a walker, or if they've had a stroke and they have to get themselves dressed a little bit differently than they used to, maybe just with one arm instead of two, how to teach their parents how to do some of these skills. So, but really my program is a proactive aging process. And if you get on this process early and you do all of these health strategies and get into group interactions are so good for your brain. You will, age better, or you will age well. And if you continue to work on it, you could age at your optimal level. And that just means a better life, I'm not against choices. People have choices on how they want to age, and that's fine. But if you do want to engage in life through your very, till the day you leave this earth, it's best, I think, to have a healthy body and a brain and spirit to do that.
No, absolutely. One of my taglines for my ageless living lifestyle is we have to age, but we don't have to become old in the process. There's a big difference between aging and being old, because old, the definition of old just means to be, actually, if you look it up in the dictionary, it means to be worn out, used up, unexcited about your life. And those are primarily choices, how you care for your body and how you care for your mind, just like you've been talking about. So what I'm interested in also, Teresa, let's talk a little bit about so we're talking about things that we can do to help our aging parents, but let's talk about, it can be really stressful to have to, we already have, people have a busy life, and now they have to, really have to deal with their parents. So talk about what the parents need to do to keep themselves in balance and good health, and also mentally, emotionally optimistic, as why they're dealing with their parents.
Yes. And I go into that in my method, my Experiage method. The first step is finding your strengths. And what I like to do is have the caregivers talk to the parents and just have a conversation. And I realize people have time constraints. And so I say, if you only have 5 minutes a week to pick up the phone, talk to your parents and say, Mom or Dad, how's your nutrition? Are you sleeping at night? How much exercise are you getting every week? And also, in addition to those questions, I like them to have a conversation. And I give a list of questions in my book, and you only have to choose one or two. You don't have to, I put quite an extensive list in there. But find out what your parents' strengths are by asking them stories about their past. Bring up positive times where they had to rise to the occasion during, maybe a trauma or a crisis, or even say like a sport, say like they were a track star in high school, or they had a job where they were very much appreciated and were advanced in their career and maybe got an award, something that brings them some pride and a feeling of success. And then take those stories and come up with the words that describe your parents, such as maybe resilient, or, proactive, or persistent, or, strong, So take those words and talk back to your parents like, Mom or Dad, you showed some wonderful strengths during your life. And you can take those strengths that you showed and you can incorporate them now into this program and be very successful and have a wonderful life. And, we'll be able to create some treasured memories together, because really when your parents pass, you start living on memories. Mm-hmm. And you want to have those good memories in place because, after they're gone, obviously you can't make memories. So you have to do it when you can. So that's the first step of my program. So, and like you said, Rico, how do you get your parents motivated? And that's one of the ways, you build them up and talk about their strengths. And my second step is to find their life vision. And so you talk to your parents or kind of figure out what they loved to do during their life. or if they had a special interest in like a charity, or if they were into sports, or if they just had a like fishermen like to hunt or whatever they like to do, and try to bring that back into their life in some way. Of course, you may not be able to fully, live out that vision, but you can tweak it a little bit and find something that works for your parents. And really, if we have our life vision in front of us every day, and it's motivating, it gets us out of bed, it helps us to, meet our goals and work towards our goals. So I definitely don't ever want to see anybody give up their life vision, because it's just part of you that,
Yeah.
You don't want to give up.
Yeah, your life purpose. Yeah, yeah. I totally believe that everyone's here with a purpose and a special purpose. We all have unique talents and abilities, and I really feel that it is a kind of our obligation to be the best that we can be, and fulfill our purpose and help to make a bigger difference in the world. So that's so important. Okay, I think you talked about the first two steps. Are we on step number 3?
Yes.
All
And
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And kind of in between there, I throw in goal setting.
Okay.
And yeah, I teach people how to set, long-term goals and short-term goals. And step 3 is concrete activities. And those are the activities you're going to use to get to your goals. So it might be, implementing some exercise 3 times a week, or increasing your like activity tolerance, maybe getting out and walking, or whatever your goals are. Or maybe your parents want to take a short trip somewhere and they need to build up their strength and endurance and their balance, or if you want to get into a boat and go fishing, you're going to have a little bit of balance to get on a boat,
Mm-hmm.
So just things like that you can help your parents with, and incorporate those into their daily living.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 4th step is just reassessing. Are we on the right path? Do we need to change the goals? How are things going? That type of thing. Is everybody, satisfied with what's going on, or do we need to make some changes? So, yeah. And, my process, it's kind of ongoing. When you meet your goals, you just kind of start over, and you start writing different goals, and having different activities to do. And I would say, if you and your parents are not in groups right now, and I know right now we have COVID, we have a pandemic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a great time to be in a group. But when this is all over, try to get involved in those groups, because it does so much for your brain and body.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the parents themselves, though. It's my belief that the parents should realize that they're going to make sure that they've got their wellness program together. So they're getting enough sleep, and they're meditating, and they're exercising, and all these things, so that are able to stand the extra stress, but then also so they can set an example for their parents.
Right. Yes. And it's really the bonus really about this whole program is that if you teach your parents how to do it, you're probably going to incorporate it into your life, and you're going to start aging well.
Yeah.
And the parents do have to take on some of the responsibility. We can only do so much. And the other thing I want to leave caregivers with is, you don't take any guilt with you, and just, do what you can, provide these programs. If you can't do it all, try to get some help, and I feel like at least you'll know what to do. If you have to reach out and get help from somebody to get this, to implement all this, that's fine, and if your parents are not cooperative, if they don't want to do these programs, well, you tried, and we just have to live with what happens, but I think the motivation is kind of built into the program, where you can find some things that your parents like to do, and that really serve them and their purpose in life. And I think that is motivating, because really, I don't even like to exercise, but I do it. I find ways to exercise that that make me happy, you know, like even gardening, you know, I'll do
Mhm.
like 100 lunges, you know, as I'm gardening, you know, that type of thing. I try to make it fun and, you know, but you know, if I had no reason to exercise, I wouldn't want to do it either. So,
Well, the reason there's lots of reasons, and
uh,
mostly just so you feel good and and you look good. You know, that's the main thing. There's so many reasons. But tell us how. So when you were taking care of your parents, how did you cope with that extra stress? What did you do to keep yourself in balance and still feel emotionally stable and healthy?
yeah, that is a great question. Um, I actually was able to get or we kind of, all of us, my siblings and I got on board together
Mhm.
with this. And I would say that my siblings did most of the caregiving. And what we did was we tried to give each other time off. And my mom, she was in assisted living for a while. So we had a whiteboard and we had, you know, the days of the week and who was going to be there to help her. And we just all traded off. So nobody had full responsibility of the caregiving. And I actually, my husband was nice enough to say, you know, go help your mom when my sisters needed me. And I was looking for, you know, me looking for a different job opportunity. So keep moving around. So I went to Kansas City for a couple years to help my mother and my sisters. And really that time I had with her was wonderful because again, you know, I have some additional memories of our time together and it was a very special time. But I know that many times I just needed a break. I needed to step away from the caregiving, and that's kind of how I did it. I just took breaks. But I know some caregivers out there are very stressed, and really the caregiver is such a big part of this puzzle. You know, they're the piece of the puzzle that if that piece is missing, things won't go well. So caregivers really have to take care of themselves. I think, you know, if you follow these health strategies, the meditation, the mindfulness, eat well, you know, drink enough water, get good sleep, and, you know, you just have to figure out how to get it done because so many caregivers could tend to get, you know, sick or ill. And that's just not going to be a good scenario.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so important for, especially if you're a single. I mean, if you're a caregiver or you don't have, you know, brothers and sisters to help you, you're the only one doing it. You've got to realize that, yeah, you need to care for your parents, but you got to care for yourself first. It's kind of like the old thing, you know, the standard thing in the airlines, right? You got to put on your oxygen mask before you help your kids, because if you can't breathe, you can't help your children. So if you're not healthy and you're not feeling mentally, you know, well, how are you going to be able to help your parents? So I think so many people just kind of get into that thing. Oh, I've got to do this for my parents, and then they neglect their own health and their own life. And you've got to just realize you've got to take care of yourself first as well, and just got to make that you got to make your own health a priority.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yes. And yeah, I think too with some of these group activities, if you can get the whole family involved at times and have, you know, holiday fun, you could cook a meal together, um, you know, garden or do yard work as a group and
Mhm.
try to have some fun times with this, you know. I hate to think of people like trying to tell their parents, you know, 50 times a day what to do or how to exercise or eat right, or you know, that just becomes kind of a drudgery. So I would just try to make some fun out of it, maybe, you know, kind of throw some games into it and, you know, make it delightful for everybody as
Yeah.
best you can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. And I really think your idea about group stuff is so important, because I think that's what the problem is. You know, we've become so isolated these days, you know, and everybody lives in their own little house and kind of separated from everybody else. And a lot of times you don't even know your own neighbors. And then, you know, in earlier days, like we had a village, well, it was a lot easier. You know, everybody would take care of everybody else. So it wasn't like a burden on just yourself. So I think that's so important to get back to a little bit more and to try and create a village. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important.
Yes, yes, yeah,
What,
and
you-
that.
what
Mhm.
oh, I was just going to say, what I think your book sounds like a really important book and it can help a lot of people. So where can people get a copy of your book?
It's on Amazon.com and
Okay,
BarnesandNoble.com.
okay, and the name of your book is The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. The Art of Assisting Aging Parents by Teresa Moore, Moerer. And we'll put that in the description of this podcast as well. Well, I usually like to ask whenever I interview anybody at the last is, all the things you've talked about and then some recommendations that you've given. But what ideas do you have to actually get people to actually take action on your recommendations and actually implement it? I know everyone will probably say, "Oh, it sounds really great. Yeah, we should do this." But any ideas to get people say, oh, "Look, you got to just step up and do this."
Yes, a lot of people don't help their parents until the pain point becomes so big that they
Yeah.
have to.
All right.
Their parent falls and breaks a hip, and that's when they go in and start to help. I would try if you're in the Middle Ages, and the average caregiver is about 50 years old right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Okay.
And I would just kind of bring that pain point into my life to say, if I don't start helping my aging parents now, um, I'm going to be sitting with them in a doctor's office in their older years. If I start helping them now, we can go and have some good memories together. Maybe we'll end up, going hiking or going, or doing something fun instead of sitting in a doctor's office. So I think I would do that. I would just say, try to grab onto that pain point now and say, if I don't do this, this is what the outcome will be.
Yeah.
We might have some decline in health. We might have more accidents. We might have chronic illness we have to deal with. We might have depression, social isolation, because as you talked about social isolation, it does cause illness. And I know that, our country spends billions of dollars every year just on social isolation. I mean, it really is a problem. So I would just, if you're middle-aged and you have parents that are starting to age, take this very seriously and help them now so that they can get on a great program. And it really tends to help everybody. It has a multi-generational effect. Everybody wins, with everybody, getting healthier. So.
Yeah, very well said. And I'll just echo that. Yeah, so you got to get started now. Don't wait until, it's like all about prevention. Don't wait until it's gotten serious and you really have no choice. So start taking the steps right now and get yourself and your parents a lot healthier. So you don't end up in that situation where it becomes really stressful and difficult to deal with. So it's always that way. It's always about taking responsibility for your life and, like you say, have vision and look ahead and say, "Oh, this is what we need to do so we can stay," because I know that you feel the same way. It's my belief that we can stay healthy and energetic and vibrant all of our life, no matter what our age. Even though it's not normal now, that doesn't mean that's what's good. It's not natural, so it's my belief that we can stay healthy and energetic all of our life. So I want to thank you for this interview. It was really good. And I thank you for your work and for your book. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I really encourage people that if you're beginning to get in this, realize this is a situation that's ahead for you, that you really get a copy of Teresa's book. I think it'll be really, really helpful for you. And any, well, I think you give a good last words. The last time that was some good last words, but anything else you want to add?
I would just say, start early. Early
Yeah.
intervention, start today.
That's it. Do it
Yeah.
now. Start today. Thank you very much, Teresa. That was really good. And I want to remind everybody that we still have the same offer on our online wellness club at BeBoldNeverBeOld.com. You can join for the first month for only $1, and you'll receive 4 personal training videos from me. And if you like this episode and you like this podcast, so give us a testimony and subscribe and tell your friends. So thanks very much for being here. And as Teresa said, get started right now.